welcome to XReality Podcast. I'm the host, Dominic Wu, and beside me is the guest, Lani Bertino. Hi, Lani.
Hi,
Could,
how are you?
Good, how are you? Uh, yeah, could you share a little bit about your background with us?
Absolutely. Um, let's see. I started in tech when I was about 12 years old. So yeah, it's been a long time before tech was even a thing, computers. And then I spent 23 years at Microsoft as in product management, and I went from there to Verizon, which is where I got introduced to XR. And it was primarily in the enterprise space, so healthcare, education, that sort of thing. Finding solutions that would run better on Verizon's 5G network. So that was super fun. And then I went from there to Trigger XR, which is a brand agency. So then it was all entertainment and consumer and big brands and lots of diverse, super fun projects. So that was a great place to work as well. And then now I'm actually started my own business called God of Games, and I am finishing up a card game, hopefully should be for sale this year, based on Greek mythology. And I have a whole series of games lined up and coloring books for adults and all kinds of things that are in my mind that need to get out into the world. So that's my story.
Oh, wow, you've been working for Microsoft like over 20 years?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
23 by the end of it.
23. Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. I think I've been in the tech space for 15 years
About
only.
that
So
long.
yeah, like your entire wow. Yeah, so
I got
so
experience.
yeah. So wow, this is like you are definitely, the person who know tech super well. So yeah, so I know that you have a business and it's about a tabletop game design. Can you tell a little bit about, for example, like what inspires your journey to design tabletop board games? And what's the concept and why you want to bring this concept to become a board game?
Yeah, sure. Ironically, I started creating board games when I was maybe 12. I remember having a big poster board on my bedroom floor and drawing a board design on it. So it's something I've always been interested in doing. My family always played games. When I was a kid, we get Christmas Eve, we'd get a board game and we'd unwrap it and we'd play it together as a family. So that just kind of started the board game passion, if you will. And then about 7 years ago, my sister had a milestone birthday, and she and I both have a love of Greek mythology, and we were going to Greece for her birthday. And I thought, ooh, wouldn't it be fun if I made this game for her, that we could both enjoy and play. And it was literally one of those where I'd print out, I'd laminate, I'd cut the cards, I'd round the corners, I'd do the things. So it was pretty primitive, and I hadn't had a lot of time to develop it, only a few months. So no play testing really of any kind outside of myself. So it was okay. I mean, she liked it as a present as the thought, but the game itself was meh. Amongst working for Microsoft and working for Verizon and Trigger and these big companies, so it was kind of I didn't have a lot of time to devote to it. So it's taken a long time to bring into fruition. And I found that I hadn't picked it up for a few years until I decided to go all in with my game company. And it was really surprising to me how some of the obstacles I was having in the gameplay mechanics, all of a sudden it was like, well, yeah, this is what I need to do. It simplifies it, it's more straightforward and it's more fun. So just taking some time away from it has actually helped in developing the game. And then in terms of what it is and the concept, as I said, it's based on Greek mythology, something that I have always enjoyed, and is a very rich storytelling platform, if you will, because there are so many myths, there are so many different versions of the myths, and then all of that really still influences Western culture today. So I find it fascinating.
Wow.
That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, I think for me, I think for the classic, like mythology or literature or even history, I always found it's fascinating because or even the old poetry,
Hmm.
or it's always, I don't know why, better than the modern one. Or like the story or even movies. I like
Well, a
old
lot of
movies.
times,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say a lot of times the modern versions are just a retelling of these old historical classical things.
Yeah.
I believe it was Joseph Campbell who said like Star Wars is essentially based in Greek mythology, with the
Oh,
scenes
wow.
that come from that. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, and I like a long time ago, I read some, like a mythology, and Greek mythology is always like amazing, and it influenced a lot of like places like Europe, right? You can see a lot of like art based on that, and
Mhm.
it's very influential. And for example, like your user after your user play, what do you want them to learn, or is this educational, entertaining, or what do you think that
Yes,
user
and
will
yes.
get?
I hope yes, and yes, that's the intent. The concept is, I mean, if you don't know anything about Greek mythology, it's a good introduction. If you do know something about Greek mythology, you'll probably find a few nuggets in there that you hadn't known or expected. So definitely there is a concept of there are different myths within the game, and if you put each of the myths together, you'll get a complete story. Based on like one little tiny paragraph at the bottom of the card that tells you who Achilles was, for example.
Oh, so it's like
Um,
a Odyssey and like a
In fact, I was
uh,
thinking about coming out with a game specifically about the Odyssey, given the movie coming out next year.
mm,
But Odyssey is one of the myths that's in the game, and then you have the gods, the Olympians, who basically meddle in the lives of humans.
mm,
So they either work for or against the myth, depending on how you play the card. You've got, the big three gods, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, who can really wreak havoc, and you can use them to really mess with your opponents and help yourself. It's Tartarus, where there's basically the Christian version of hell is what Tartarus is, but it's where all of the Titans have been imprisoned and are being tortured for eternity. It's the rolling of the stone uphill, and every time it gets to the top, it falls back down, and that kind of thing. So
mm.
yeah, there's
So
definitely a lot of learning going on in there.
mm,
One of the things too, though, that kind of inspired this direction for this game is when my nieces and nephew were
mm,
young,
mm, mm,
I would play some card games with them that could help me both teach them strategy
mm, mm,
and teach them about stories they weren't aware of, like Al Capone or Jekyll and Hyde and Bonnie and Clyde and things like that. And so they got really interested when they played the game. A, got to teach them strategy, and B, they're like, ooh, I want to find out more about this topic. So like with
mm,
Bonnie and Clyde, then we'd watch the movie Bonnie and Clyde, and that kind of thing, and we'd look up the history.
mm.
So that's sort of what I want people to take away from this is yes, learning, but learning that you want to learn, that's fun, Yeah.
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 Yeah, it reminds me of my right now I'm like in my master degree, and
Hmm.
I'm taking some, online class.
Hmm.
And then one of the class, like this week's assignment, is that okay, so assessing or like evaluate different types of learning kind of software.
Hmm.
And one of it is that is this fits the educational steps that has assignment or
Hmm.
quiz or grading system. I was like, and I said, this is definitely not my priority. If
To ruin the fun.
Yeah, when I see quiz for my
Uh-huh.
learning, it kills appetite, you know? It's like,
Mhm.
if I want to learn Greek mythology, I'd rather play a board game and without being judged, like, oh, I'm bad. I
Right.
got all the selection wrong. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because sometimes I think education sometimes is too focused on right or wrong according to the teacher's framework. And it
And then it's
doesn't, yeah,
memorization too, because if you're just going for a right or wrong, that means the kid is just memorizing. And as soon as you don't need to know it, out it goes from the brain. And so if you
yeah.
do it in a way that's impactful, um,
Mm.
that's when they start to, like you say, dig into it more and like
Yeah.
read this classical book or let me reference this poem or whatever it is.
Yeah. So every time when I see like, oh, there's a quiz, there's something like, and whatever you're great according to your quiz, like how many answer you did it right. I just it just kills all the appetite for me to wanna learn anything. And even essay and there's a rubrics.
Mhm.
Like, oh, you got 4 points if you clearly state your whatever statement. Yeah, every time when I see it's called pedagogy, right?
Mhm.
Pedagogy. Every time when I see those structures, I don't know, I just feel like,
Wonder anybody's learned anything.
it's more like, oh, I have to pass it so I can, get a degree or something. But I feel I do truly think that if I want to select a way of learning or
Mhm.
a way of teaching, I probably will try not to, have a structure, which is very interesting. It's called curriculum design. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'm learning that and I'm from tech background. So when I jump in, I was like, this is something that makes me feel nerd.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting. It's under the education system. You have to have this in order to call this a class, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's just free. It's like a play something and you
Mhm.
learn versus you are under a certain system and you
Yeah,
got a result.
with the structure.
So yeah,
I
so
mean, obviously there's a win-lose element to this game. It's not like it's not cooperative and it's not everybody wins. There is a win-lose, but it's not based on what you learned. You know what I mean? It's
mm,
it's based on how you play the game, which is
mm,
I don't know about equal, but definitely luck and strategy. I mean, it's the luck of the
mm.
cards that you draw, but there's a little bit of strategy too in how you play them out to maximize your points and minimize your opponent's points. So,
Yeah, I think that is very smart. For example, like some military games, right? I
mhm,
remember I listened to a like podcast or audiobook. There people said that a lot of economists or
mhm,
a lot of military directors they use game to train their staff instead of using, the textbook because if you can win the game, it means that you are mastering the system, right?
well, Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, which was one of the early, well done, by well done, I mean graphic wise and compute wise games. It wasn't Pong or something. But that was used to train the Air Force, from what I understand.
Hmm.
On flying without before there was virtual reality. Let's get you up in a game before you crash this plane that costs millions and billions of dollars. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of military, right? Like
mhm,
for example, I remember I saw one I don't know article. It says that one American director asked the soldiers to play like a 50 military simulation games before going to the combat or
mhm,
like battle zone.
mhm.
I do think that it's very, very important that we can um start um thinking about, yeah, because right now I'm in more like a kind of like my master degree, and every time I have to structure something, and I can tell you I structure my Udemy according to Udemy structure, and I find out people drop after they finish their assignment. Yeah, it's like for me, I think, oh, it's fun to step by step to learn how to create a mixed reality
Mhm.
game. But if you put assignment in between, it just,
Mm,
yeah, people feel it out and just kill all the appetite and they don't want to keep growing. So I had to start thinking about what's the point? Because before we have a factory, right? Like a long time ago, 100 years ago, everybody needs to go to a certain types of system company, and there's a
mhm,
system you need to learn. So a school is like a training to become the future of factory worker. But
mhm.
now it feels like the standard. You see, like AI pretty much disrupt everything. So I do think if people want to learn, it's better to use, like, for example, your way, right? Like a board game instead of like a going to a class.
Well, I think the key is educational without feeling like it's educational. In other words, you're not like, you're going to learn something, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you
I
know,
think those are targeting on parents for me. It's like, oh, parents is like, oh, after taking those class, my kids will learn, but kids feel suffering.
yeah, yep, for sure.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So, how do you balance narratives with like a simplicity required for the card base or compact gameplay? For example, like we all know that you have a novel, right? Harry Potter, right? Like people read the script or like read the novel. And how can you translate these types of text-based, heavy text-based media into a game? Like, what's your strategy of implementing the complicated
I think my
narratives?
strategy was trial and error, to be honest. It's a huge challenge, and both in terms of the gameplay mechanics and the card design,
Mm,
because Greek mythology or any story really is just rich with a lot going on, and
mm.
so how do you convey that on a card without it being 4-point text that nobody can read? Which, by the way, I just played a game that was like this. It was a great game, but nobody could read the text on it. And then you also don't
Yeah,
want the card cluttered, right?
yeah.
From a design standpoint, you want it to be easy to identify the elements in the card.
Mm,
And then from a gameplay perspective, it's what I was talking about earlier. I had found coming back to it that I had introduced way too many complex elements. And like trying to remember that, you'd always be referring back to the instructions on how to score because I don't remember. This was too much going on. So it really is a challenge. And it's kind of like when I write, like you're asking about strategy, and I say trial and error, but it's really kind of true in that when I write, I try and get everything on there. And whether it's a paper for work or, a presentation or creative writing, and then that's too much. Like it's way too much. So then you start dialing it back. And then to
mm,
me, that process helps me figure out what is important. What are the important bits to keep? What are
mm,
the things that really matter?
mm,
Because if I try and start being compact to start,
mm,
I'm not really analyzing what are the important bits because I am visual. I need to see kind of here's the big picture.
mm,
What's the little picture that we want to do?
mm.
If that makes
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think like learning how to translate like a long text format media into a compact like a storytelling. Because I mean, one pictures wins 1,000 words. So if you show it, you don't have to describe it, right?
Mhm.
And the interesting thing about like for example, right, before I was doing Moby Dick, and I was trying to do a PRDs, right, for
Mm.
each chapters, and they have 300 chapters, something like that. It's very, very long, and first 200 pages were the harbor. It's not even go to the sea.
Oh my
It's just
gosh.
the description
Hmm.
of the harbor and
Hmm.
people there and the culture and even the soup.
Hmm.
The soup they cook,
Hmm.
right? And it's kind of trade off. I was like, I wanna trim it under 20 chapter, and I
Hmm.
was like, how can I? It's like, oh, and I remember I was even like, my heart was debating, should I cut out a couple of really, really good welling knowledges? For example, they have they have some knowledges that
Mhm.
I need to dive into Wikipedia, and it's
Mhm.
real. For example, there were a lot of yellow essence or like a nutritions or like a I don't know, some organics
Mhm.
in the sea, and the
Mhm.
whale or what whale kind of suck those in because the whale doesn't have teeth. They have like a,
Mhm.
like a, I don't know, that
Filtering
thing.
system,
Yes,
basically.
filter. So all the stuff get in and like breathe it out. And I find out, wow, this will be super cool to be in like a VR, right?
Mhm.
You see everything is, yeah. And it's so cool there. I remember there were a chapter in Moby Dick that introduced all the different whale.
Mhm.
It's like a encyclopedia. And I
Mhm.
was reading and I was getting into different um uh size of whales. And I was getting in, I was very fascinated about all the great knowledge that the author had. And I
Mhm.
was like, it doesn't really get into the whole story. The whole story is more like a Captain Ahab as a, hatred towards something, and that
Mhm.
great nature is fighting back, something like that.
Almost like being what I imagine being a film director would be like,
Yeah,
because you have to get to the story and you have to tell the story, but
yeah,
then there are these really fun side elements, like the soup at the harbor that doesn't
yeah,
really support the story, but they're kind of fun,
yeah.
kind of like an insider knowledge. So you have to decide with the space that I have, what
Mm,
do I include and what do I not? And I
yeah.
imagine it's the same thing. Like when they're editing a film, they're like, man, that little riff that these two actors did and improvised was great, but
We have the cut. Yeah. Yeah, same as me. Like I always think that making the classical things or like novels or even Greek mythology,
Mhm.
you might kind of like in the struggle between like oh, this is so cool. But because of the big picture, you probably need to uh,
Dial it
uh
back a little.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I always think that the new media is not the replacement of all the old media. It's like we are the kind of like teaser, right? Or like
Mhm.
the trailer. You get in, and people love it, and after playing your game, they go back to read the full novels.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is that choose your medium and stick with it. And I fully believe that I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but I fully believe the reason why 3D films really haven't taken off is
Hmm.
because unless you're filming it in 3D for a purpose,
Hmm.
then all it is are the gotchas, things swinging out at you. And you're like, that's fun maybe once, but it's not part of the story. It's not an element
Mm.
of the storytelling.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like if you're adapting a book to a game or a
Mm.
book to a movie, you're going to tell it in different ways than the
Yeah.
book is going to. And that's
Yes.
by design. You have to. Your audience is different. Even if it's the same person,
Mm.
they're in a different either on their couch, they might be at the table, they're with people, they're not with people. There are just so many things to factor in. So you've really got to design for your medium.
Yeah, yeah. I think for example, like a board game has its way to tell a story. Like AR has another way of telling
Hmm.
a story. And I think the media itself, it's just a media, but
Hmm.
how you use your way and how you convey your message, how you tell a story is, yeah, I would say it can be cross
Hmm.
with different media and maybe using a different ways of
Yeah,
telling a story.
absolutely. Yeah. For example, if I were going to do this game in VR,
Hmm.
I wouldn't just take a card game and put it in VR. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not super compelling.
Hmm.
What you would want with Greek mythology is to have all of it come to life, and to see
Yeah.
it more play out in front of you and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And recently I saw a couple of like LinkedIn posts and they put a book reading
Hmm.
inside VR or mixed reality. And for me, I was like, oh, reading in real world is already and you need to wear the headset and do the same thing.
It doesn't make
Uh,
sense to me. Like, let's
it
make reading more difficult.
let's make reading even more like tiring.
Mhm.
Yeah. I do try to read. I remember I did some kind of iterations of Moby Dick.
Mhm.
The first one was I put multi-model
Mhm.
types of things. I use audio. I even use like a picture and text.
Mhm.
And then I find out that yeah, the one that I like is probably more like an interactive elements in, because I find out that even though there's a really nice, text and space out for me to read inside VR, I just want to skip it. And I
Yeah.
don't feel that reading in VR makes my, yeah. So, yeah, so I do
I
agree.
think for me, though, kind of bringing it back to the tech and the fact that we're both have grown up in tech, basically, you can still use tech for tools to create your game. So I know that yours is actually a digital, but mine is a physical card game, but that doesn't mean I'm not using XR technology to help my game. And this is where I told you about the AI
Mm,
art rabbit hole that I jumped down. And when I first created the game about 7 years ago, there's no such thing as AI art,
mm,
at least not commercially that I was aware of.
yeah.
So what I had to do is go to Shutterstock and buy, basically my game requires 57 images,
Wow.
and and I would have loved to have it have more, but I couldn't afford it. So so I had to go to Shutterstock and try and find an artist, and it has to be an artist to have a similar style throughout
Hmm.
that did all of the Greek mythology. And I found one artist who did it. And even then, the mythology that the artist had conveyed wasn't exactly the same version of the myth that I wanted, down to the difference of like, well, these are red
Mm,
cattle versus white cattle kind of thing.
hmm.
So then I had to have an artist go in and modify the art, to work for my game. And I mean, I won't lie, it looked good. It didn't look like what I had envisioned in my mind. It was a little more cartoony,
Hmm.
a little more targeted towards children,
Hmm.
which is fine. It just wasn't the look I was going for. And
Yeah.
then when I came back to it this last year, um, AI art was huge. And not only that, it's like every day it's getting better. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me do Zeus. If I can do Zeus, then maybe I've got something here. Oh my goodness, it is exactly the way I want my game to look. And I showed a friend of mine, she's like, oh, I really like your old one. And then I showed her the new one. She's like, oh my God, okay, yes, that just screams Greek mythology. And, it's just much more the idea I was intending, and frankly, much more sellable.
Yeah. And I do see that, for example, few days ago, I saw a news that Anthropic CEO said that AI will take over all the entry levels, white collar people's job. And I do see that people who use it loves it, but
Mhm.
people who, because of,
People are
AI, just
afraid.
like you said, that, oh, you can perfectly find something and use AI to do it, which
Mhm.
means somebody has to do it before AI, but now it becomes AI, right? So yeah, I do find out that AI is very, very powerful. And recently I saw Google release like the video one. And I
Mhm.
was impressed by how, yeah, and I tried the Google like a videos thing.
I
And
haven't tried it yet.
oh,
How
you
is?
haven't?
No,
Uh
no, I want to.
yeah, and they have it. I would say it's very interesting. They are I can say that if you have idea and you don't know any film, you can still create some decent stuff. The bar is raising pretty high, and
Maybe I
the
can try and make a commercial for my game.
yes, I
See
think
what
you
happens.
can. I think you can. So before you probably need to hire somebody, right? I remember a long time ago, back in 2017, I was helping a startup creating a campaign, and we
Mm-hmm.
have hired,
Mm-hmm.
a producer in Santa Monica, and we and staff, and they need to, kind of do this, starring, like, oh, this person is our actor, actress, right? And we need to get like a Santa Monica beach permit, which is like 1,000 something per day,
Wow.
for you to take your professional camera to be on the beach. Otherwise, you will get fined. So yeah, there are a lot of like things if you want to shoot local. And also, I remember one of the producer want to take the entire team to I don't know, Las Vegas or somewhere to shoot like a snow somebody ski, and the hotel fee,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's crazy just to shoot like a perfect one shot or two shots, or like somebody wear the whole equipment and take your product.
Yeah, it reminds me though of I think this is before your time, but I think it was the early 90s for when desktop publishing became a thing, right? And it was
Mm,
like, oh my God, everybody can design a brochure, flyer or whatever. And it's like, well, they can, but that doesn't mean it's good.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You still, to my mind, at least for a while, we still need that human element of storytelling, of direction, of how you put it together.
Hmm.
Because if you're just showing flashes of the beach and a person in the snow, you're like, and what's the message I'm taking away from this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think we still need like somebody with a very good eye.
Vision.
Yeah,
Hmm.
vision. I think I remember one of the LinkedIn like influencer. He
Hmm.
said that right now because he is a kind of project manager. So he said that a project manager with a vision can pretty much, do the rapid prototype by, for example, right now there are a lot of cool stuff. I try like a builder.io, and I try um, Lovable.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you just have, or like Google Stitch.
Hmm.
Those are more like you have idea and you will turn website or app immediately.
Hmm.
And it usually we long time ago, I mean, my time, I need to
Hmm.
turn it into a design file, right? And I need to create a document, design document for developers to see,
Hmm.
oh, this right, PDF files. And now I think recently Figma has a toggle which you can toggle to dev mode and it will turn to the code. And you see, like Lovable right now, I saw some LinkedIn posts. It becomes the kind of like one of the quickest growth
Hmm.
softwares that you can just directly from type skip the Figma version into directly deploy to the web and
So
app.
you're bringing up something interesting to me that I am just now realizing that I've experienced in this process is that with the AI art, it helps, and I found also with text, chat GPT and stuff, if you have something to start with, if you have a good basis, then AI does 1,000 times better than if you're trying to get AI to generate it from scratch.
Yeah.
That has definitely been my experience with the art, and that is the only way that it worked for me for this game is because I found an AI generated piece of art on Adobe Stock. I tried a bunch of different versions, and Adobe Stock seemed to have the best AI generation materials.
Hmm.
But I found one that somebody had already created and submitted, and then I was able to take that using the Adobe tools and change it into a version with Poseidon and a version with, Hades. And so it still looked like it was in the same style and it's still all AI generated, but it did much better when I had that use this as a visual basis than if I tried to just type in, I want,
Mm.
Poseidon with a trident and the waves crashing around him. And then it came up with like a cartoon or something. And you're like, well, that's not what I'm going for. I want powerful.
Yeah, yeah. I think right now AI can remember, right, and the fit the same style and understand the style.
Hmm.
Yeah, I recently released a course, like a AI pipeline for XR development. I
Hmm.
use ChatGPT to generate Edgar Allan Poe, but
Hmm.
instead of just writing out of nowhere, because ChatGPT might do some cartoonish one, I
Yeah.
upload a lot of old photos about Edgar Allan Poe and ask ChatGPT to generate front, side, and back or top.
Hmm.
I forgot like a couple of way, and
Hmm.
I put into Trellis, which is the 3D model generator.
Hmm.
And I asked ChatGPT even to key out the background. So it works really well, and 3D model just totally generate T-post. And T-post,
Hmm.
I can go to like the animation AI tools to do the rigging and apply any animations that I'm looking for. So
That's so
I
cool.
yeah, so I was like, wow, and it's all free.
Yeah. Yeah. For now.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, I create a Tesla, kind of
Hmm.
like a VR experience, and back in 2019, I purchased that Tesla car, and it was $400. And
Hmm.
imagine right now, it's probably I can get it for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, it's the same thing like with the art. When I went to Shutterstock to get the images, it was, gosh, I don't know. I spent $2,000-3,000 on licensing art, and including what I spent to have it changed. And then now, even though I am going through Adobe Stock, it's going to cost me under $100 to do art that better matches my vision of the game.
mm.
Um, and gets me the breadth that I want. So it's crazy. It's crazy how things have changed.
Yeah, so for example, like trailer, right? I did like some trailers of different things, and I find out that wow, I just put the idea
Hmm.
into chatbot, Gen AI chatbot, and then they come up with like commercial lines, and it's very, very good. I mean,
I'm so gonna try it for my game.
yeah, I find out it's really, really good. And then you can use Sora. I mean, Sora, as long as you have ChatGPT, kind of like a pro, the next one is
Yep.
not $200. It's the 2025 per month. That one you can get some certain amount of video generation, and you just use that and keep generate, and
Hmm.
you will get a pretty decent and right now you can probably try Google one.
Hmm.
Google
That's what
probably
I'm gonna try. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I find out that once one company is launched something, and after probably a couple of weeks another company will launch the other new tool set, which will be better than the previous one, which will I feel like right now, maybe right now we are talking about Google one, maybe after 2 weeks it's another new stuff coming
Hmm.
up and override Google's technology. So I just feel amazed by how
Everyone's working on it. That's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, if you see the AI booming,
Hmm.
I just feel like wow, senior
Hmm.
senior kind of director or manager with an AI tool can pretty much they don't really need a junior to do all the detail work. You can pretty much do everything. Yeah. So I just find out that yeah, AI tools, just like you said, that it saves time, right? And it can definitely produce a lot of great work. And
For a lot cheaper, as you pointed out. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just feel like wow, it's kind of um like a double side, right? Double sword is
Hmm.
somehow we love it and somehow we kind of like, oh yeah. It
We're all
feels like
afraid.
yeah. It's very just
I heard a story. I hope it's true. But I think about it every time this comes up, and that was back when the printing press was invented, which was,
mm,
I can't remember, 1800s, late 1800s.
Gutenberg that
Anyway, but what happened when the printing press came about is parents went out of their minds saying, "Well, oh my God, now my kids are going to be stuck with their nose in a book, and they're never going to get outside and play."
Oh, wow. Wow.
Right?
Interesting. Now we want kids to read the book, right?
Exactly. Then, and that's my point is that, you know, we all freak out when something changes, uncomfortable for most people, but things tend to shake out, you
Yeah.
know? Because these kinds of conversations have been going on for hundreds of thousands of years about something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of recently I joined AI Fellow. It's like a
Mhm.
every couple of months we have a one meeting,
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
And I had like a one meeting a few weeks ago, and they talk about like, oh, what's the current agenda? Because AI Fellows we have like the chancellors,
Mhm.
California Community College Chancellor program. They pick like 11 AI fellows from the community college, and they want us to figure out how to implement AI policies to all
Oh,
the
nice. Uh-huh.
community colleges.
Mhm.
And the first question that one professor raised is that, oh, a lot of teachers resist AI because they say, oh, AI, if we allow students to use AI, is cheating. And I can tell you, I
It's
told.
like when they said you can't use a calculator in your math test. I mean, why?
Yeah, right. Oh, and the other interesting point is that currently I'm in like a master degree taking online course. Yeah, and then one of my professor kind of like posting a lot of kind of like messages about like oh, immersive technology was not it's not from her, but it's more like she referred that, oh, be careful of using VR. It's fun, but the accessibility is really bad, such as Second Life. And I was like, Second Life, who is using Second Life? And that was probably like a you know um, very very old article. I saw like all my programs um, referring articles were
Mhm.
always before 2011.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And they had this program probably about the same time, and they create an entire curriculum, and they
Mhm.
never, I don't want to say never update, but probably update some of it. But every time when I read or learned things, it's all old stuff like 20 years ago,
Mhm.
or even 100 years ago.
Mhm.
But the new things like AI, immersive technologies, none. And I am proposing like, oh, I want to learn this, like create a proposal about study some certain types of topic in
Mhm.
pedagogy,
Mhm.
yeah, in education field. And I propose like, oh, I want to do XR, I want to do AI. It's fun.
Mhm.
And the teacher said, AI is such a new technology that there are not many assets out there. You won't have a lot of reference. So I was trying to avoid AI in education and still trying to figure it out. I was like, hey, education should be the pioneer, right?
Mhm.
To be most advanced. Why we are teaching students to fall back, and AI has been around for a very long time. I mean, Gen AI probably new, but I mean, I Google about AI thesis, right? AI research topic. It's a lot.
Mhm.
And it's around 2023 to 2025. I think it's probably too new for them to.
About how different COVID would have been if AI and VR were more prevalent in education at the time. It would have been a whole different ballgame. You wouldn't have had entire generations of students that are behind where they should be because teachers could have effectively taught a class and the parents wouldn't have had to do it. It's just, it boggles me how much money we'll spend on sports, but we won't on education.
Yeah, or military.
Yeah.
I
Sports,
don't know why
military.
why we spend so much money trying to kill others. Uh, I don't know.
It
I
probably
just
explains it in some of this classical history and Greek mythology we're talking about.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's more like a um who is the leader, right? I feel like for men who want to conquer, they always love like a military or like a more like a muscular. But
Mhm.
for me, I mean, I just like, hey, can we spend money to do something else to make everybody, being taken care of, right? Instead of yeah, increasing, I don't know, like a military stuff. I mean, I know some people might think, oh, it's cool because, our country need to have more, military support. But I just like if you don't trying to make other country feel uncomfortable. I feel like right now we are trying to poke and make it every others unhappy about us, and we're trying to, you know, increase the military budget. I
Hey,
personally just
speaking of
like,
rabbit holes, we're going to go down a whole
again,
different
what's the
direction.
point of what's the point? I don't know. Why not we just, doing more like and we cut a lot of humanity to support other countries. It's a little bit different from what I thought. It's like, hey, if we are capable, we should give, and make everybody happy on the planet. And instead, we wanna, keep building up the hatred, keep fighting, and someone wanna take everybody to the Mars, right? I mean, it's cool, but if we are not taking care of Earth and we just wanna uh, create a lot of technology and yeah, doing all those crazy stuff, I don't know why am I why like in high level why are we doing that? And it goes to back to the humanity and reading and classic literature because I do think that the technology developed too fast and our mind, our empathy or our understanding of other cultures are pretty low level. It's like elementary school or a little baby infant and with super powerful gun
Mhm.
and trying to shoot everybody.
No, I agree with that. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do, well, it's starting with Greek mythology, but the concept is for a series, a card game series called Mythology Rummy. And it would be tackling, it could be Norse, it could be Egyptian, it could be Aztec, it could be
Mm.
even something that isn't a mythology so much as like the golden age of piracy. There are just so many stories and things to learn in that a lot of people aren't aware of. And again, bringing it back to it actually, has influence on your life today with Greek mythology, obviously hugely, just in terms of expression. So with the myth around the Palace of Knossos and the labyrinth and the Minotaur, there is
Mm.
literally a saying called grab the bull by its horns that we still use today that was about the athletes at the time who would do bull jumping and they'd grab the bull by the horns and they'd flip themselves over
Oh.
the bull. And guess what? A lot of those children doing that, young adults, died because it's very dangerous to grab a bull by the horns and flip over them. And so
Mm.
that helped inform the myth about how there were tributes of young men and women from all the Greek city states being sent for the Minotaur to devour. Because
Mm.
in reality, they were going there to try and prove their athletic prowess, but were dying because it was probably a pretty dumb sport. So, um, can't remember where I was going with that, but it's oh yeah, it was about the other cultures and the learning and expanding your horizons, basically.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah.
definitely one of the I things that is informing what I want to do with this series.
Yeah, and I do think by understanding the history, you can see the pattern of human, right? And you
Mhm.
can foresee the future
Yes.
because history, human always we don't learn anything from our history. We just keep letting the history repeat itself. So I think people with a huge background, abundant of history knowledge, will know a lot and can, can see the patterns of the future. So that's I respect people who knows a lot about the history.
Well, and that kind of brings us back to the beginning that we were talking about, which is how do you get people to remember things and act on them, right? And it's not by usually not by textbook learning or rote learning
Yeah.
or that, rigid structure that you're talking about. It's by getting them interested and excited and involved in it. I
Yeah.
remember in my, I want to say it was seventh grade, seventh or ninth grade, geography class, and the teacher basically, instead of, it wasn't geography, sorry, it was history. Instead of doing things like making us read the textbook, we would go outside on the playground and reenact wars. Or he would
Oh.
make us be the head of a newspaper, and it's like, what would you write about this day and this time in history? Give me a
Mm,
newspaper. And you had to draw your own cartoons and like do
that's
your own
cool.
stuff. It was
Mm,
super cool. And that's what actually made me remember more about the Underground Railroad than anything else, was
mm,
because I had to write a newspaper on it, you know.
yeah.
So interactive learning to me is very powerful because it's fun and you don't know that you're learning, you know. You just
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I played like Assassin's Creed a long time ago, and I don't know why, because I was play, the hero, right?
Mhm.
Trying to kill or assassin all the bad, Egypt,
Right.
tax governor, because they
Mhm.
tax a lot of people and everybody was poor. And during that time, because I had to assassin a lot of like a tax, like governor, and I was like, why? What's going on in the ancient Egyptian? So I even look up like a lot of books and also Wikipedia, and I started realize, wow, tax is really bad. You see, like tax will cause war.
Mhm.
The reason why American have like a independent war is because of tax, right? England wanna reinforce, right? And the reason why China and there's a war between China and all the European countries is
Mhm.
because of the Chinese stop importing anything from the from England. So
Mhm.
the trade will causing war and including tax. So
Money,
yeah,
basically.
money basically
Mhm.
economy. Yeah. So I do think that by looking at that, it's like it feels so real,
Mhm.
right? And instead of reading a textbook, oh, like Egyptian, like text, da 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 da, and make people miserable or something, I
Mhm.
wouldn't remember. But when I
Mhm.
play that, I have to do a lot to assess that
Yeah.
super rich asshole. And then I know it's because the
Why are
text
you guys
reason.
so terrible?
Yeah, right. And I had to, jump on the roof and trying to, do like a assassin. Otherwise, if I didn't do like a very discreet way of the attack, I will get killed. So
Yeah.
it's I think using gamification really reinforced the history moment. I remember after playing it, I remember there were a lot of things that, for example, like I traveled to different region and there were deserts and
Mhm.
there were little pond. I need to fish, doing a lot of food. And I feel like, wow, I'm totally immersed in that, Egypt, that era, and
Mhm.
also, like their palace, how their people wear dress, and what types of you can see district of normal people and
Mhm.
the rich emperor, right?
Mhm.
So I just learned a lot just by playing that game,
You
even
said
though, yeah.
a buzzword there, gamification,
Mm.
and and I agree with you in the context of what we're talking about. The reason I bring it up is because there was a time, and I think that time is still here, where you get brands who talk about gamification, and all it is slapping some leaderboard on it, or
Oh, game
making
mechanics.
a challenge you have to complete and then you get reward points or something. To me, that's not gamification.
Yeah.
Gamification is what we're talking about, which is you're playing a game that happens to have um, other learning elements to it. It's more than just a game.
Mm.
There's again, it's not Pong. It's not we're just hitting something back and forth. It's something where you can you can learn certain things from, whether it's history or a story or, world cultures.
Mm.
There's a lot of richness in there as opposed to just, oh, look, there's a leaderboard.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
For example, like I totally agree with what you said because there's a book called Actionable Gamification from Yukai Chu. I forgot his name, but
Mhm.
it pretty much says that what you said, leaderboard, points, coins, rewards, all those types of things are extrinsic.
Mhm.
And something, the rewarding for extrinsic, that means it just trigger your dopamine.
Yeah.
It's like a swiping TikTok. You feel
Mhm.
happy, but it's gone very fast, and you kind of need it. And if that element is gone or no longer make you feel happy, and
Mhm.
you won't even want to do it, right?
Mhm.
But intrinsic is more like for example, before during COVID, I had a smartwatch and
Mhm.
I download like a Nike Run Club, and I was like going around Santa Monica, like a beach, right, every
Mhm.
morning. And I wear that every time after I do that. I saw my app, and there's a run, and at the end, there's always a celebrity say, "You made it. You can do it next time." So something like that. I feel like, I mean, there's no leaderboard, and I know you can sync up and compete with your, people. You can sync everybody together and become a multiplayer thing. But
Mhm.
I feel like, oh, why am I doing that? It's just
Mhm.
just somebody wanna just walk around the blocks and trying to do some basic exercise. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, sometimes little gestures. Sometimes I feel like if I do something and I know it benefits me, my body, I
Mhm.
just wanna know. I don't wanna show to everybody, hey, I'm so great.
Right.
Yeah.
Forced communities, I really do not appreciate. Like, why would I want a community around this?
Yeah, and I understand that a lot of like a challenging, or a lot of things are surrounded by the community. So
Mhm.
that's why you see like there is a book called the anxiety or anxious generation. Yeah,
Mhm.
it talks about how child, or probably during COVID, they only access their phone, and through phone they know the world or know their peers,
Yeah.
and it becomes like you have to share something, the best part of yourself. It's kind of makes people anxious. I remember super long time ago I joined a kind of dance workshop,
Mhm.
and dance workshop, all the dancers, they have perfect body, dancers, right? Like they
Right.
are all energetic, and
Mhm.
I remember those like a
Aesthetic and
college kid. They
mhm.
they dance. They have like a practice dance,
Mhm.
and everybody looks so perfect. And I remember one girl post, because I follow them,
Mhm.
post one thing and said why all her friends start posting something so perfect, and everybody was dancing and post
Mhm.
a lot of progress, so make her feel a lot of pressure. And I saw some of the girls, because the size probably is a little bigger,
Mhm.
probably not a normal skinny dancer, and she feel a lot of pressure. Yeah, so I don't
This is
know, like,
ironic because her body type is probably normal and the
yeah.
body cancer is not so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. I can tell you, and if we talk about dance, we can talk a lot, because long time ago I joined that types of dance club just accidentally, and then after I joined that, I found out that, wow, why people go to hospital to take like a depressed like consultation. You
Mhm.
can just go to a dance
Mhm.
kind of workshop, and you will be happy immediately. You don't have to talk to.
Funny when I went from Gonzaga to UNLV, and at UNLV I did a double major in IT and dancing.
Mm,
And the dancing part was just for me. I hadn't planned to like do anything with it, whereas the IT was more for career stuff. By the way, never graduated from UNLV, but the hardest class I've ever taken in my life was that dance class.
Oh,
Because I was doing it for fun, but everybody else in there was doing it to be a professional dancer.
yeah.
And it was hardcore. And it's like, forget the IT class. That's easy. I can pass that in my sleep. But this dance thing, ooh, I gotta work at.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like it's interesting because I joined another kind of like a workshop because I later on I moved from Irvine to LA, my
Hmm.
second job. And then I joined another kind of dance group. It's called Manania. And you know that one was so popular, and there were a lot of celebrity teaching, like um uh uh, Britney Spears,
Yeah.
or like a Justin Bieber. You know,
Hmm.
like a those types of like a great
Hmm.
dancer or like the backup dancers. They teach in
Hmm.
that place. And yeah, every time when I went there, everybody were taken so seriously.
Oh my
And
God.
I was the person who just like trying to be on the corner. I like the vibe, but I feel like every time when there's heating,
Tense.
yeah, it was very tense, and especially rotate myself.
Hmm.
I always couldn't like because when you rotate, if you learn ballet, right, you
Hmm.
look up in front and you rotate, and your face will be in the same spot. I always like in
That's
the
the
wrong
last
spot.
thing to turn. Yep.
Yeah, 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 and it's really fun. Yeah, and yeah, I think a dance really um yeah, like open up another interesting area that I
You want to blow your mind, look up Lani Bertino dance on the internet. And there should be a couple of videos that'll come up. That's me in my 20s, I want to say. I did some
Whoa.
ballroom dancing. So,
Wow, that is very, very interesting. Wow, wow. Yeah, so I think yeah, those types of things, for example, like a theater, right? If you want to play a role, a lot of people requires a lot of dance background, right? I think those are all different ways of telling a story, and also good animator.
absolutely. Storytelling, creative expression, I think these things are very important.
Yeah, and storytelling is the best way to remember something. Because
Hmm.
without telling me a story and makes me remember a lot of facts. And sometimes I think I need to know why I'm learning it. Yeah, like for example, when playing games, I couldn't play like those like a there's a military order, right? And I have to shoot so many people, and I need to know why I have to shoot them.
Right.
Why did they do something wrong? Why I don't feel motivated to do a lot of instruction on
In
why I have to shoot.
Baldur's Gate, I think it was, not the new Baldur's Gate 3, the one that was like 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister and I would play it together, and we get to the part where there's the thieves' den. And we had no problem killing the thieves because they're bad guys, right? But they had these Doberman pinchers that were guarding their lair, and we were trying to do everything possible not to kill the dogs because it just felt so bad. And yet the dog would attack
Yeah,
you, and there's your motivation, and it's self-defense. But nonetheless, I understand your reasoning.
yeah. The interesting thing is that you know Moby Dick, right?
Mhm.
That Moby, the entire crew need to kill that big whale, right?
Mhm.
So I put this as a mystery reality game that okay, so that's just kill the whale, and
Mhm.
then I post on LinkedIn, and suddenly all my friend, like 5 to 6 people,
Mhm.
post the comment, don't kill him,
No,
leave him alone, please. There he's innocent.
go away.
Yeah, go away. Don't bother the whale. And I was like, eh, but you know, so that's why at the end, I was thinking about, yeah, maybe for literature we can have different perspective of view. Also, is related to critical thinking,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
For example, um, for the audience to pick, do I wanna join Captain Ahab to kill the whale, or uh what the main character did was wrong. I wanna join the whale team and fight back to human.
Either way, you still have to have that impetus of why does he want to kill the whale? And
Yeah.
then you can make an informed decision. Well, maybe it's because it's gonna, whatever, kill an entire Japanese village or something. I'm clearly making stuff up here, but
No worries.
you don't, there has to be a reason. It can't just be, and maybe the reason is, oh, we want to sell the whale meat, so it's
Mhm.
financial gain. Well, do I want to be the rich tycoon or do I want to be a good person,
Yeah, according to my understanding is Captain Ahab was one time was trying to kill Moby Dick, but one of his leg got ripped off by that whale. So uh Captain Ahab wanna,
It's like
fight.
revenge against
Yeah,
the
it's the
whale.
revenge. You kill you eat you ate my leg and I
Wow.
wanna kill you. But I think this types of hatred will drag the entire crew into the tragedy because there were a lot of Olmian kind of stop, a lot of things that telling kind of Olmian tell the captain, don't go forward.
Hmm.
Something bad will happen. A lot of Olmian, but the captain was not really aware, just want to kill it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also the great whale. Yeah, I was thinking about, yeah, shoot, if it's like it's a lot of interesting things once you allow the reader or the
Hmm.
user get into the scene, because the reader, instead of film, right, you just watch,
Hmm.
you are actively participate, you can help each party. And
Yep.
let's say if the user help the whale, right? Oh, I don't want to kill whale and I will join the team. uh, should we kill the human? And I was brainstorming, but at the end, maybe, people who join Moby Dick team,
Hmm.
um, both party will survive because the animal has kind heart. It
Hmm.
will just swim away, just like a little bit punished, but not really kill the human.
But
Maybe,
either way, the reader's more invested because they've opted in, right?
yeah,
They're saying,
yeah.
I want to participate in this way.
Yeah, and I think it also fosters critical thinking. Critical thinking, I wouldn't say there is a right or wrong of critical thinking. It just have a personal perspective because you see, like in the like some certain ancient time that everybody need to hear what emperor said, and
Hmm.
there is no different diversity of advice, right? And we can also go back to AI era. We need like a diverse of data and advice and way of dealing things instead of the centralized thing, because I
Hmm.
think it's very dangerous if we we let some certain people who guard or
Hmm.
own the AI technology. I think that might be yeah, like I think diverse voice is important.
Absolutely. And what you said about critical thinking, the same is true with strategy. I mean, critical thinking is part of strategy. And again, that was one of the things that I wanted an element of in this game because there's that, you know, I can play these cards now, but should I? Because that might give an advantage to the other player if I play these too early. So
Yeah.
thinking about, how you're going to proceed, and you can play it offensively or defensively,
Yeah.
and it's a personal choice. As you said, it's not right or wrong. It's a personal choice. You just need to know what both sides are. You need to understand and be able to think it through, like you said, the
Hmm.
critical thinking in order to make the choice that makes the most sense for you.
Hmm. Yeah, I do think that by turning the literature into a game or by turning mythology into a game, it really changes kind of like the way that the user feels actively participate, right?
Hmm.
So I do think that will increasing the engagement and also like more like for people to remember, right? So I
Hmm.
think it's educational and both educational and entertaining. And one of the reason why I want to do more like a storytelling, but knowledge based, it's like a education 50% and entertainment 50%, is that I remember before I was playing Pokemon Go,
Hmm.
I even I remember that time I was living in LA. I don't know why I was such a crazy person. I couldn't catch Pikachu around my area, and I Google it, and I find out that there's a blog, people forum, uh, a blog that people catch a lot of Pikachus around that block. So I remember after I finished my work, I drive like a 2 hours to Irvine, that block. Irvine is super safe. And I was walking back and forth. It's like during 7 or 8, it's dark. And I just keep walking around and catch Pikachu. Anyway, but after doing that, and I
I'm
remember
just
after
envisioning the police pulling you over for like
what's going on?
area
Yeah,
or something.
why you take phone and trying to walk
Right.
around? I think Pokemon Go is really good to force people to go around and start walking around the blocks.
Mhm.
Yeah, and after a few months, I recall that memory. I was like, oh, why am I doing this? It's nonsense.
Mhm.
And I wish, Pokemon Go can have some educational contests. So I don't, because I remember so many monsters. And I mean, obviously I forgot now, but I remember so many, like how they evolve, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, and I share with people. And if that can be more like a thing that I can take away, for example, history or literature, that would be wonderful because,
Mhm.
yeah, what's the point of remembering so many monsters if those can be chemistry games, something, right? So that's
Well, the nice
also,
thing about Greek mythology is it has lots of monsters, and there are reasons to remember them.
yeah, yeah, and I do think that that might also help us to rethink how can we yeah, implement the game, and especially right now there's AI. I find out that AI can generate a lot of really good PRDs.
Hmm.
Yeah, even though there are some hallucinations, but I do think that it will really accelerate the
Hmm.
creations of engaging games, and I bet education will be um changed a lot because education is always behind. And
I think once people like these older educators you're talking about, once we can get beyond their no, then it'll open up a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember last year I was in the academic senate, like the meeting. Every month we have a um like a the meeting, and
Hmm.
then um we were talking about AI and cheating, and
Hmm.
one professor said that, oh, why not ask students to after their assignment they say how you if you use Gen
Hmm.
AI tool, you say I use Gen AI tools to help me edit it. I use Gen AI tool to help me brainstorm.
Or to get an idea or yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and I remember my essay, like one of my assignment is like, oh, how do you think about Gen AI? Is that cheating? How do you prevent cheating? And I was like, maybe cheating in the future, it won't exist, that cheating word, because we will be, I said that we will be cyber person anyway.
Hmm.
And before you see like right now we are using computer, which I call it collective intelligence. It's
Hmm.
the entire humanity's intelligence, right?
Hmm.
Now we are using laptop, right? So it's kind of a little distance from our brain. And later on, we will have wearable, right? And we will have glass. In the future, we will probably just directly input to our brain. So there's no delay from our current local brain to the
Hmm.
collective intelligence. So everybody will be cyber man, cyber woman.
Hmm.
Yeah. And what's cheating means? If
Yeah.
if in the future all the answers is right displayed in front of your eyes.
Well, even now, what does cheating mean? Because in order to answer that, you have to say, what is the lesson you're trying to get them to learn?
Yeah.
And if the lesson is to know the history of something or the story of something,
Hmm.
well, the fact that they use ChatGPT to write it makes less sense as cheating
Hmm.
because presumably they read through it to make sure at least it was on topic, and
Hmm.
guess what? They read something, they learned it. But if it's
Hmm.
memorizing something that you could easily look up later,
Hmm.
why, so what? Why do they need to know that? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I remember like I had two college degree. My
Mhm.
first college degree back in Taiwan. I love I mean I personally think Taiwanese college or like the entire learning experience was really bad. You know how I learned English? I bought a dictionary and then I tear the spine and I staple A, staple B, all the pages. And every day when I walk to the class, I remember A, la 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 la, and we have a test like, oh, this one like a selection. Yeah, like what does this word mean? It's like GRE. So yeah, that's how I learned
I thought you
English.
were going to say Sesame Street, which to me would be a much more fun way of learning English.
Yeah, it's Asian way. We need to pump up the score, but you had a high score in your test doesn't mean you know that
Exactly.
thing. It just
Doesn't mean you
means
know it.
you
Yeah.
probably get lucky and get
Mhm.
it right. Yeah, so I I I think one of the class that makes me rethink about education is that one of the teachers said that if you want to get an A, it's a directing uh teacher.
Mhm.
He was doing, the improv
Oh,
performance.
mhm.
Yeah. And he was probably one of the famous kind of director producer in Taiwan. And he said that, okay, so if you want to get an A in my class, you need you don't need to there's no quiz,
Mhm.
there's no assignment, nothing. You just come to the class, right?
Sure
And
would.
listening me to talk about the history of the play or
Mhm.
theater play. um However, if you want to get A, everybody will get default B. I don't like grading people. Everybody will get B. Even
Mhm.
though you join or not, you will get B. Anyway, he's like an artist type.
Mhm.
And he said, but if you want to get an A, you need to ask me three good questions, which
Yeah.
means that the questions couldn't find on Google
Mhm. Mhm.
back in 2004. And I was like, wow, this
Mhm.
is a provocative
Mhm.
course. It's very, very hard. It's harder than getting an assignment and done because every time when I came up with questions, I remember I read like a Shakespeare, all
Mhm.
those stuff. And every time when I have questions, I type in Google and I got an answer. It's so hard to find any questions that doesn't have answers on Google.
It's amazing when you get very little results on search for the internet, because it used to be you'd almost come up with a blank page, I think, and it'd be like, sorry, we have no response.
Hmm.
And now it's like if you get 5 pages, you're thinking you feel cheated, like, oh, I didn't get enough response. And then
Yeah, yeah.
you have the little, AI excerpt at the top, which of course you have to fact check, but nonetheless, pretty much right there at your fingertips.
Yeah, and I remember I had a lot of different courses, but
Mhm.
I focused on that course because I you couldn't believe me that I only got two good questions. It's like I every course, every class, I ask him questions because I want to get an A. And
Mhm.
then he always said that, okay, these questions I can Google it. Let's Google it. And the answers show up. It's just so hard if you really want to get an A. And if I ask a question, and I remember at the end of the course class, we have 18 weeks. At the end of the course, I only got two good questions. I didn't even get three. It's
But the funny
very,
thing
very hard.
is you thought more about that class and those subjects than you did anything else.
Yes, I find out that 90% of my time spent on that course is I've read all the Shakespeare books because it's just so easy to find the answer on. And I just want to find something that cannot show. And it just took me trying to learn everything. And I find out that I learned um, everything. Like I feel like I learned the most in that semester
Yeah.
from that course compared with all this very well structured curriculum design course.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, similar as I told you with my junior high class, where it was, I learned more in that history class than I did in any other class because I had to do these interactive activities and I thought more about it. You know, when you have to create a newspaper about the Civil War, you're thinking a lot more about that than you are about like, you know, what slate is in physical rock science. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember one discussion that inside our master degree course is that how can English teacher prevent student cheating or something?
Hmm.
For example, essay or something, writing an essay. And I just said that maybe since student will cheat anyway, because it's part of the tools. And you see like Google has Google AI mode. So it pretty much tells you everything. And Google has like a notebook, right? You put all the information and it will create a mind map
Hmm.
or like organize everything for you. So it's just so
But
so
again, what are they
convenient.
trying to teach? Are they trying to teach writing skills? In which case, maybe the assignment should be rewrite a chat GPT answer so it sounds better, so it sounds more like a human wrote it. You know, what is
Yeah.
the point of the exercise? Sometimes,
Yeah.
and I think this is what you're saying with that rigid structure for what is a course, what is a lesson. We're focused too much on the framework and the rigidity of it than we are on what they're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, I think I wrote my answer is that maybe instead of asking them to write an essay, like 4 pages, like a, font size,
Mhm.
spacing, maybe ask them to write a book,
Mhm.
right, about your topic and
Mhm.
upload to Amazon
Mhm.
and get a user review, four stars
Mhm.
above, and you get an A.
Mhm.
Because in that way, students not only need to learn how to write a really interesting book, because ChatGPT only generate average,
Mhm.
no perspective. It's
Right.
kind of safe, but
Mhm.
not really engaging, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, average. But they have a good starting point. And in order for people to want to buy it, to
Mhm.
want to give you a review, it takes
Yeah.
very huge effort, and they need to learn how to sell.
Mhm.
So it's pretty
I
much,
mean, you and I are on the same page there for sure.
yeah, just
Great.
increase the assignment 1,000 times harder. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I do say that, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm ESL. I think ChatGPT, every time when I write something, sometimes because I mean, English is not really, I don't know, like for me, when I speak English, there's always something that is not grammatically correct. So
Mhm.
I always want ChatGPT to rewrite it. And
Mhm.
always, a couple of times I find out it's very, very good because ChatGPT always can. Sometimes when we write something, it will sounds like, oh, a little sassy, or
Mhm.
because of the language that
Became
we
weird
use,
whenever you wrote
it's
it.
kind of weird. But yeah, so every time when I write something, it's not like I cheated or something. It's just like, oh, I wrote like a super messy and very Chinglish
Mhm.
essay, and ChatGPT kind of helped me to, rinse it and make it professional. So my points can come across so you understand what I'm trying to say, right?
And
So,
does that mean you're cheating at your job? No, absolutely
yeah. So,
not. It's
so
a tool, and it's a very good tool when used appropriately, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think that there are a lot of, especially education area. I think this will be totally innovate. Yeah, and
Education, but also entertainment. Interestingly, that you and
mm,
I both are working on projects that combine them, but separately, I think that AI is fantastic for both education and entertainment. And if you look at things like what InWorld is doing with AI and PCs
oh,
in games, and how they can really respond more like an actual character versus, you know, the limited, shall we say, NPCs in the past. And you put, it's like you'd said, you don't have to put nearly as much effort into it. It's a lot quicker. It's a lot cheaper. And frankly, the output is better in a lot of cases. So
yeah, I just take a look of Inward. Inward is like the only AI framework powering massive consumer applications. Yeah, it looks very interesting. It's like a
Great company. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I saw a lot of interesting like NPC, AI
Hmm.
agent. I think in the future, it's yeah, it's very interesting. For example, like I did some NPC
Hmm.
non-player characters. Like I make Edgar Allan Poe in
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
in the Palm of the
I love
Rhythm.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I make it like a NPC and I talk to it.
Hmm.
Some of it is off. Some of
Hmm.
it is fit to the right answer. So I think the data, yeah,
Hmm.
we need to feed better data. And also sometimes, some structure of the dialogue, we need to do more curation for the, for example, if you
And
want
then
to
that's
do,
when we get into that morality discussion about, the sources used for AI, and especially like in talking about art and writing with being trained on pieces that are still copyrighted. It's different. Edgar
oh,
Allan
yeah,
Poe, that's beyond the copyright limit, if you know what I'm saying. It's I can't remember
yeah,
what they call it when it comes into the free market, but
a public domain.
yes, thank you, public domain. But yeah, but what about, some of the other stuff that's based on things that people got paid for or should
Yeah,
be paid
yeah,
for?
like for example, we had a discussion about no textbook, zero textbook course.
Hmm.
And the professors wants all the professors to upload their curriculum materials, like a books,
Hmm.
scan them, upload to the source control and let student download a PDF. For
Hmm.
example, my book, I remember one professors wanna do that for my book. And I
Hmm.
kindly say, can you just scan a portion of it? You won't do it, not the entire book, because
Hmm.
student can download as PDF and they can share.
Hmm.
Yeah, on the internet. And
Hmm.
who will buy my book? It's interesting that I mean I'm not really like, oh, I have to profit something. Everything need to charge. I don't mind giving a portion things to education, but it's kind of like an interesting point of view that in school teachers thinks that, oh, this material should be free, we don't want to let student buy it. But
Hmm.
if you are in the author's point of view, it's like you are
I spent a
doing
lot of
the
time on that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it took me 3 years to do
Right?
that. Yeah, and then now everybody can download online and
But you can
share.
access it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This point, this part, all the professor want the book is free for them to teach. However, when it comes to AI tools, they start saying that, oh no, it's trained on the people's stuff and they are not paying. It's
Hmm.
illegal. But my point is that, hey, if you wanna do the uh scan and upload other people's material online and make a
Same thing.
PDF without teachers,
In
without the author's consent, that's also so
fact, that's a more flagrant violation of publication rules.
yeah, and it's like it's under a school name, and the author were like, oh, in the dilemma is like, if 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 I tell the school don't do it, it feels like I am not a I'm an evil business person.
Right, right. But that is why let me back up. It's a really difficult discussion because I'm on both sides or all sides of the fence, depending on what we're talking about or how we're talking about it. But that is why for the game I went through Adobe Stock because they actually have AI artists who program in, what the artist. Now, we can talk about all day, where is that based from? But they have artists that they pay for you to license that AI art. And so if I'm
Mm.
using their AI art as a basis for me to make something new, they're still getting paid for it. And that
Oh,
makes me feel better about it. You know what I mean? It makes me
yeah,
feel a lot better about it.
yeah,
So you try and operate within um, the gray margins that you can. It's a difficult subject. It really is.
yeah, yeah. And I remember one article that I saw on OpenAI. They said that AI has the right to learn on the copyrighted material. I think I agree with AI has right to learn, but when you are taking the copyrighted material, you have to pay. You can learn like a human, but when
Right.
you take a class, you have to pay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can definitely learn, but before you
Mm.
grab other
You have to
people's
pay for
stuff,
the
you
book,
just pay
yeah,
for it.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, so that's my thought. And yeah, I think we had a great discussion about art, entertainment, education, and gamification. Yeah. So what's the one thing that you still like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
Mhm. Um, I would say, following your passion is really difficult. And it comes with a lot of anxiety because
Yeah, right.
oftentimes following your passion does not equate immediate money, but it's worth it. Like it is so much fun to be able to create the things I want to create the things that I am passionate about, to make my own decisions, even in terms of when I work and how I work. And, nobody tells me what to do, as it were. So I feel like I've learned this pretty late in life, and I just encourage people to try and find a way to pursue your passion sooner. And it doesn't matter what that passion is. If it's, coding enterprise software, great. But, when I was looking at job descriptions and stuff, and part of what prompted me to go all in on my game company was, are you passionate about cloud security? I'm like, well, I'm glad it's there, but I'm not exactly passionate about it. But
You
thank
are very
God
honest.
somebody is, right? So try and find a way to work in your passion sooner. And it doesn't necessarily mean owning your own business. It means doing something that makes you feel good about yourself and your contribution to the world. So
Yeah, yeah. And
highly recommend. Yeah.
I do agree with what you say because I find out that right now, you see, all the job marketing right now is that um people doesn't really need so many people. So you can see a lot of people are on the market, and I always see a lot of super high quality or like a senior level, and
Mhm.
they are on the market. And I was surprised because remember 2022
Mhm.
when metaverse was still a hype. People are looking for metaverse designer or technical artists who can build that, and it's highly in demand. Pretty much, it's the opposite of right now. But you
Yeah.
can see because of AI, it's pretty much the opposite. It's that, yeah. But I can see these types of things. Well, it's like we will AI will come to a point where the bubble will burst because if
Mhm.
you highly rely on AI, I mean, right now I'm pretty much doing a lot of things on AI, but I find out that there are a lot of things that AI cannot do or do much worse. For example, like Moby Dick, PRD, a lot
Mhm.
of things are so mediocre or too many dialogues. I need to jump in by doing by revising AI's document. I need to learn more in order to
Mhm.
do that. So I think there are certain types of people, senior people need to be human in the loop, right?
Mhm.
So I still think there's some like probably 1% of the entire humanity will get a job that that
Mhm.
still need them. Other people need to do something else and provide some values for other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, I mean, maybe I'm being naive, but this whole like, oh my God, AI is going to put everybody out of work. It's like, no, it's going to change how you work, if not what you're working on.
Hmm.
But that's again kind of why I go back to, if you work in your passion, somebody else is going to have that passion too, and they're going to appreciate what you create.
Yeah.
So it's just going down different directions, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So um yeah. That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoyed this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and 5-star rating or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you, and I will see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.